Hello. How is everyone? I hope you can all hear me okay. Yeah, welcome to the Master in the Box live stream. Bit of an impromptu one this week because I really wanted to test out the Ozone 9. I've never tested it before, and I had a great opportunity to get hold of it for a very reasonable price as part of their upgrade plan. Or their what do they call them? Promotional offers, I think they call them. And I got it for a great price, and I thought, what a great way to try it out and do a live stream. So today's live stream is going to be really focused on the Izotope Ozone 9, and we'll come on to that in just a second. But yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining me for the live stream. It has been an absolute chaotic nightmare today. The new PC turned up today. All working tip-top, really well. It's just taken me quite some time to get it all set up. Really fun. My setup is now pretty much complete, which has been great. So I'm going between the Mac and the PC for different work streams. But yeah, really happy. I've now just got to go through the process of re-downloading everything once again, setting everything up, getting all the preferences set, etc, etc. And it's going to be good fun and games over the next few days. So yeah, it was a little bit of a rush to get things set up with OBS and resetting up OBS and making sure all the audio transfers through. But hopefully it will be. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Before we start, I'll put some links in the description or in the chat so far. And when I do a live stream, I generally want to do just a few shout outs and things like that. So first and foremost, I put in there, if you do want to support the channel, if you like the live stream, if you like the content that I'm putting out, then feel free to support the channel through buymeacoffee.com. You can, if you want to just say one coffee, £3, then say any support you can provide will be greatly appreciated. The RX sale, the Izotope sale. So Izotope RX is a fantastic suite of plugins for repair, restoration, but it's so much more than that. Any form of editing, any pre-mastering. So one of the common uses for it in a mastering context would be to look at things like phase rotation, etc., spectral editing, etc. It's all in one simple package, and they are actually offering a bit of a deal at the moment, which is fantastic, and I'll put a link in there at the moment. The reason why they're doing it is because Izotope RX8 is soon to be replaced by Izotope RX9. So they're doing a bit of a sale on RX8, but if you buy the RX8 within the next, I don't know how long it is, it's within the next few weeks, you will get the free upgrade to RX9, which I think is great. So not only are they giving you money off the RX8, they will give you the free upgrade to RX9 as part of the package. So I'll put the link in the description or in the chat down there as well. The IK Multimedia group buy, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly flick over to the main screen here, and we'll have a look at the browser. Here we are. So here's the link for the RX8 and RX9. So you get a free upgrade to RX9 standard when you purchase RX8 standard, and this applies to the Elements and the Advanced as well. And at the moment they're offering $100 off plus the free upgrade, which is a great deal. But you know, I've been harping on about the IK Multimedia group buy for the last month and a half. This is why. So if you see here, the group buy is up to almost 20,000 participants. Now, at the end of August, IK Multimedia announced that if they can get to 10,000 participants, they would extend it through to the end of September. They've now announced that if they can get to 20,000 participants to the end, or by the end of September, they would extend it for a further month. What this will mean is, at the moment, if you join the group buy, you can get 19 free plugins. 19 free plugins. But if we get another 159 participants by close of play tomorrow, then that would then extend for another month, which then means that we could get up to a full 25 free plugins. It's absolutely crazy, and I've been a big fan of the IK Multimedia plugins for some time now, and there's loads you can get. So at the moment it's buy one get 19 free, but if you can get up to 25,000 registrations, you buy one and get 24 plugins for free. and there's loads on offer. So you've got all the amplitude stuff here, you've got all the T-Rax bits and the processors, the ARC system, which I've got, which I'll be doing a review of soon, the mix box. So if you want something, a good channel strip style plugin for mixing, that's great there. But it even goes into all the virtual instruments. So you've got things like Sample Tank and Sampletron. One that I was really interested for my own personal creations was Syntronic. And I managed to get, in fact, no, I got Syntronic for free. The original, it's like the light version, whatever it was, the free version. I ended up getting loads of the Syntronic instruments as part of the group buy as well. I ended up getting Modo drum and Modo bass as well. And the way I did it, I bought Amplitude 5, which was valued at, okay, it's €2.99 here. It was on offer. I got it for €199, which meant that all of my free plugins could be valued up to €199, and I got loads. And what I ended up doing, because we've got so many free plugins, I ended up getting the Modo Drum SE, and then with my next one, I managed to get the free upgrade to Modo drums. And I did exactly the same for Modo bass as well. So I started off with the SE, and then upgraded it to the Modo bass. So it really is worth it. I love the IK Multimedia plugins. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, especially when you look at, I think when you get some of these plugins, a lot of them are, your choices are pretty much down to what companies you like. Because let's face it, if you look at some of the plugins they've got on offer with the T-Rax stuff, a lot of them are analog emulations. So if we have a quick look here, you've got things like the Stealth Limiter. Well, that's obviously that's not an analog emulation, but you've got things like here. So the compressor, the Dynamo. The Stealth Limiter has been a staple in my mastering chain for a long time. The Master EQ, all the tape machines, and it just goes on and on and on. Equal is a great plugin. If you want just a really good versatile plugin, then Equal is another fantastic option as well. And as I say, there's loads on offer. But as you can see here, a lot of them are analog emulations. From my experience, all of them I use I think are great. They're very, very high quality, and it's just a great way to get a lot of plugins for, quite frankly, really cheap, because all you have to do is buy one and you're then getting a load free. Saturator X is another one I recently got. I've already got the bus compressor. There's loads on offer, so check it out. There's a link in the description, in the chat. The link is an affiliate link, so if you do buy something through the affiliate link, then I will receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. So it's not going to inflate the cost to you, it's just going to be a small commission just to help support the channel. So that is all that is. And there you can see we've got the RX8 stuff as well. So if I go back to here, the full face screen, and the other link that I wanted to do is send you an, okay, so I've been so busy lately with lots of different things, but I've had some absolute fun mastering some projects, and this one was a particularly very, very pleasing project to work on. It was fantastic, and you'll see there's a link in the chat there for Digital Audio Art, which is a new YouTube channel, and I'll tell you what, this song is great. So it's their interpretation of the 1812 Overture by Tchaikovsky. So obviously it's a classical piece, 15 minutes long, and it's such a fantastic interpretation. The effort that it's got into just little things, just, you know, really looking at the dynamic range is amazing. It starts at around about minus 30 dBs, and at the end it's right up there. You know, it's just such a dynamic track, but it's just they've really picked up the emotion of the piece, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic, a fantastic interpretation. I had the pleasure of mastering it. It was such a good project to work on. So if you want to take a listen, I left the link in the chat there, and it's for Digital Audio Arts, and it's the 1812 Overture. It is about 15 minutes long. crank your volume up on your speakers a little bit, because it is great. And it starts off really quiet and mellow, and it really builds up as the original does. We spent a lot of time listening to this with reference tracks and trying to balance a lot of the levels with the references. So I really hope you enjoy that as well. Hi Billy, great to have you here once again. Hope you're doing well. So it's good to see you on the Studio One Studio One e-meet the other day. For all the Studio One users out there, really do get involved in some of these e-meets. They are really good. Get to speak to a lot of different people. One of the great things I took from the last one was about my setup here. So I mentioned earlier on about the PC and Mac setup. The PC is going to be the main driver for the mastering, and the M1 Mac Mini is going to be my go-to for the video editing and things like that, and daily productivity. So what I wanted to do is, I've got one set of monitors, but I wanted to have a setup where I could switch between the Mac and the PC without any hassle. The interface that I got was the Antelope Audio Zengo Synergy Core, which is fantastic. Highly recommend that to anyone. But I didn't want to keep taking, the USB-C cable and swapping it out between different computers. And originally I was thinking, because I've got a KVM switch, and the KVM switch effectively switches the monitor input. So it's going to switch the inputs from the PC and the Mac, and I've got one main monitor here, so I can do all the, look at the screen, and I've just got to press a switch and it switches between the two sources, which is great. And it's got some peripheral USB connections, and I was originally going to plug the interface into one of those. I was quite clearly told it wasn't a good idea, because it's something that it doesn't work well when it comes to interfaces and things like that. So the guys, Mikhail and Ricardo, quite rightly pointed me in the direction of a monitor controller, a monitor switcher, and I'm really happy. I just got the Mackie Big Knob. Great name. And what I was able to do is have my Antelope Audio plugged in one source, and I had an old Behringer UMC 204 HD, and I've linked that into the Mac, and I then basically got the stereo outs on both interfaces going into the Mackie, and now all I have to do is literally press the source select, and it switches between interfaces, which is brilliant. No more fuss about cables or anything like that. It's now just a permanent solution, so I can easily switch between the two, which is great. So the setup is now pretty much there in terms of the new studio setup. And the only thing that's left is the acoustic treatment. That is, exciting, fun, stressful, trying to get everything sorted, but more on that to follow in due course. So that's enough of that. Let's head on over. I'm going to go to the DAW, and for this week's live stream, I'm actually in Reaper, because it's just easier with the Izotope stuff to switch between, use it as editor. So it's one of the things with Studio One is there's no, as far as I can work out, there's no real native way of updating things like RX and then automatically updating the files in Studio One. But in Reaper you can set up external editor, which is great. So if we head on now, let's quickly minimize this. If I now go over to the door capture screen, minimize OBS, and here we have it. So just to give you a bit of a background, a lot of you guys are going to be saying, well, Izotope 9, Smudge, this has been out for some time now. Yes, it has been. But I think it's had a bit of a bad rap. Certainly from me as well, because of this little button here, which is the Master Assistant. And I think my frustration with it is where a lot of people will go and get Izotope, get Ozone, and they will click the Mastering Assistant and say, there, I've mastered my track. Well, it doesn't actually work like that. It will give you a ballpark, it'll put you in the ballpark, but it's not a one and done, click a button and it's mastered. And I've been a big follower of the Izotope educational channels, and Jonathan Weiner, who is a very, very esteemed mastering engineer, very knowledgeable, and he's the head of education at Izotope, and even he says it's not there to press the button and have your track mastered. It's there to put you in the ballpark, so to speak, and then you can then take that in the direction that you want to. So it's going to give you some guidance, but it's down to you then to refine it and master it how you want. And I think having listened to the way he's articulated it and the way he's explained it, for me it's kind of like, you know what, I really need to give this a go. I've not used it before. This is the first time I've used it. The track I'm featuring this week is the track called Billy by Nick Graveswell, and it's a track that I originally mastered and I featured on the channel before. It's a great track, and we're going to go through Ozone and just see what we can do. It's very much going to be first impressions. Like I said, I haven't really used it before, and we'll just go through and just see what we can do. But without further ado, let's play some of the track and let's go from there. Fantastic. So I loved that track. I loved working on that one. It was the first one we did off the EP Songs to Drink To, and yeah, great fun mastering that one. Really good track. So I'm going to go through, just have a look through the settings of the actual plugin itself. So basically this is where we stick with the modules, and this is where we're going to effectively do the processing. So it says here, build your mastering signal chain, create your own mastering signal chain by clicking the plus to add the modules. And if you want to create a custom starting place, you can click the mastering assistant. Well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to use any presets or anything. We're just going to go through and add our own chain. I just want to quickly just check, make sure everyone can hear that okay. If you any issues at all, let me know in the chat. And if you've got any questions that you want asked, then please just let me know in the chat. I'm going to stop through every now and again, and I'll take questions as we go through. So let's just have a quick look here. So let's click here. So okay, so we've got lots of different things here. So we've got a dynamic EQ, dynamics, equalizer, exciter, imager, a match EQ, a maximizer, a vintage compressor, vintage EQ, a vintage limiter, and a vintage tape. So we've got quite a few different bits there we can use. I've never been a big fan of all-in-one solutions, but this is slightly different because this is effectively building your own chain. Whereas a lot of the other all-in-one solutions, it's just, you literally probably have about 4 different knobs to turn. It's not very flexible. So I'm really kind of eager to try this out. One of the things, first and foremost, the peaks, it was quite hot. So let's have a look at getting some form of limiter to start with. We've got the maximizer here, we've got the vintage limiter. Let's go for the vintage limiter and let's take a look at this, see what this does. So you've got, okay, so you've got tube, modern, analog, you've got your threshold, okay, so you've got your true peak, you've got your ceiling, and your character. Okay, great. So ceiling -1, threshold 0. The reason why I'm putting the threshold to 0, we know that the peaks are coming in quite hot. And just by looking at the peak meter, it did clip in one part, and it was going in above the -1. If I start to bring the threshold down, it's going to add compression over and above what the ceiling is going to do. And I don't really want to add too much compression at this particular moment in time. So let's just leave the threshold at the moment. We'll put the ceiling in, and then we'll see what kind of gain reduction we're getting with that. So let's play a bit of this through with the vintage limiter. Character, interesting to see what that's going to do. So let's have a little play.
Billy was a young slim whip of a kid. Daddy was an asshole that liked to drink.
Okay, interesting. So we've got this true peak feature here. So effectively what the true peak's going to do is it's going to effectively look forward to, it's basically going to look at the export process and what the, so it's going to take into everything. Once you render the file out, it's going to look at what the anticipated true peak is, because there will be, even though you put a ceiling, you're going to go through a process of, you know, an exporting process. It's then going to be uploaded to the streaming platforms, etc. There is going to be additional gain put on top. So even if you have a ceiling at -1 and you have your master at -1 for a ceiling, there is potential there for things like intersample peaks, etc., which is going to take it above the -1. So the true peak comes, it looks like bypass, and you engage. It's obviously blue is engaged, and for me, I listen to it, it certainly clamps down on it much more. Let's take a listen here. There's some peaks coming in here. To me, the true peak is it's very taming. It's probably taking some of the highs off, and obviously it's emphasising the lows. Certainly something to play with. Let's have a quick look here. The modes. So we've got a tube mode, we've got an analog mode, or we've got a modern mode. Let's go to analog first, and let's take a listen to that.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done?"
To me, the analog warms up the vocal a little bit. It certainly it feels more low end heavy, but yeah, it's I think it's I don't know if it's actually bring up the low end or if it's more adding some of that kind of the low mid warmth. Certainly to the vocal, it certainly tends to warm up the vocal. Let's take a listen to the modern as well.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done?"
Interesting, yeah. It's just very, very subtle, just slight different flavours. So let's that could be quite good fun to play with there. What we got here? So this is obviously showing. So this displays the gain reduction track view, and this displays the spectrum analyzer view. So if you play a bit here.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
Okay, that's pretty much self-explanatory. Let's have a look at this character. I'm interested to see what this is going to do, and I wonder if this is going to be some way linked to these. It's on 2. Let's put it up to, let's double it for, see what it does.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done?"
Okay, so this is saying it's controlling the attack and release times of the vintage limiter. Yeah, great. Be interesting to see how though. I think that's the thing, is how is it affecting them? Because it's kind of like, well, in what capacity? The way I like to use the attack and release, I prefer to use quite a quick attack and a slower release. So it kind of it's a more subtle, prolonged compression, but it doesn't really say how it's kind of affecting it. Certainly, audibly, I'm certainly getting more high end when it's the characters lower.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done?"
Listen to the hi-hats.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done?"
So yeah, it's certainly as you raise the character, it's certainly taming a lot more at the high end. For me, I like it a bit more. I like it a bit lower because I can tame the high end in different ways. So if we've got a lot of high end or a lot of sibilant frequencies, we could look at something like a de-esser or the high end, the high band of a multi-band compressor, or we could even just look to tame it with some simple EQ. So I think it's a great thing to have that character. I think for this example though, I'm probably going to leave it just where it is around the 2 mark. So that's fine. I'll leave the true peak off for the time being. I'm relatively comfortable where the peaks are coming through. Let's just have a quick look at these meters here. So I'm assuming this is the input, this is the output. But in saying that, this is minus. Okay. So let's have another look at these meters here.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son?
Right. One of my main gripes with this at the moment is the visual is so small. I've got my glasses on, even I can't even read that. Is that minus 1.4, minus 1.5? Help me out in the chat here, guys. If you can see what that reads, let me know. I can't resize it, because if I try and resize the window, it doesn't do anything. So I can't do anything with the GUI, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. I imagine that's going to be minus 1.4, minus 1.5, because it would make sense. If we've got the ceiling there, we know that it was going a little bit hot, so it kind of makes sense that it's taming the peaks. But if you can let me know in the chat, that'd be great. Let's have a quick flick through, see if there's any questions. Okay, nothing at the moment. Okay, right, so we'll leave it on the vintage limiter. In fact, let's just have a quick look at the maximizer, just see what it does. I'm going to bypass that for the time being. Okay, right, so we've got the same kind of thing here. So you've got the threshold, you've got ceiling, you've got the character, stereo independence, transient emphasis. Okay, this could be quite interesting. So you've got to learn threshold, so it goes to... okay, I'm not going to ignore that because the target's minus 14. Let's take the threshold down here. So we've bypassed the vintage limiter. Let's bring the ceiling down to minus 1. And then let's leave the character as it is. We know what that's going to do.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? Put down the gun. Put down the gun. Put down the gun.
I'll stick the old headphones on because these are super detailed. So let's take a look at these independence settings here.
And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? Put down the..."
Okay, so the stereo independence here is effectively, as it says here, it's a transient and sustained control. But by increasing the transient, it's going to take away a little bit of the FUD. So if you get that kind of real beefiness, you do lose a little bit at the low end. That kind of the thump from the kick and the I don't know if it's necessarily the snap of the snare, but it's certainly that kind of body and weight of the snare. So try and focus in on those. And as I increase the stereo independence, hopefully you'll probably start, the way I kind of hear it is it's starting to make it sound a bit brighter and lose some of that body. So take a listen. Okay, yeah, so it's I think it'd be quite useful if you want to try and brighten up a track. I think that could be quite good. If you've got a very dense mix, that could be really good to kind of bring some more, have certain elements poke out a little bit more. I mean, it's certainly it's once again it's raising the transients, and for me it's just bringing too much high end into it. It's losing that body and that weight of the kick and the snare. I quite like it around the 29%. You can also click this. There's also a link button here, and you can do the transient and the sustain independently. And it looks like, I don't know how you kind of. There's obviously some sort of stereo setting here, but how do you? Okay, that's interesting, but certainly kind of retaining some more of that that beefiness to the kick and snare, whilst also just allowing things to kind of poke out a little bit more. Transient emphasis. Okay, so that's set at 0. Okay, let's listen to this then. In fact, what I want to do is I'm going to bring the stereo independence down. Oh, okay, right. Just by looking at these logos here. So that would actually make sense then. So to this, if you see this logo here, it's very much more focused in, it's not quite so wide. I wouldn't say this is necessarily widening, but it's certainly doing a stereo independence. This is actually widening the stereo field a little bit, or kind of giving that emphasis that it's going to be more wider, which kind of makes sense, because if you've got a lot more of the top end of the sides of the stereo field, your more mono frequencies and your more bass frequencies, so it kind of makes sense then. So the stereo independence, if you're kind of spreading the stereo field, then you are going to get more high end anyway. Let's have a look at this then, this transient emphasis, and see what this does.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, what have you done? Son, what have you done? What have you done? Son, what have you done? What have you done? Son, what have you done? What have you done? Son, put down the gun. Put down the gun.
Okay, it's very, very subtle. I mean, it looks as if it is really trying to, it says emphasise the transients, and it's kind of like, I'm not really getting too much of that. It's kind of obviously there's quite a lot going on here, so maybe it's probably not the quite the right track to try it on. I'm not really getting too much here. Let's have a quick look at these because this is quite interesting. Because you've got okay. So you've got this one here. Okay, so if you've got a chain of 6 of these, say, and you only want to listen to what the EQ's doing or what the compression is doing, you can actually get a solo, and it will actually bypass the. Okay, it bypasses all the other processing in the other modules. So that's quite interesting. That's quite handy to have. Do I like this or do I like the vintage limiter more? I think this is one to certainly explore a bit more. You've got all these different modes. And you've got, okay, so you've got IRC. Okay, so you got, these are some more kind of preset based style modes here. So you've got pumping, balanced, crisp and clipping. Okay, let's try these.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, what have you done? Son, what have you done? What have you done? Son, what have you done? What have you done? Son, what have you done? What have you done? Son, put down the gun. Put down the gun. Put down the gun.
Okay, so that's actually really, really cool. So obviously, what we're doing, because we're not getting a massive amount of gain reduction from using just through the ceiling, what you can then do is reduce the threshold or bring the threshold down, which can allow the limiter to effectively apply some additional compression. And then what you've got is these additional bands here, or I suppose they are presets, and you can basically change it from like a classic, modern or transient mode. And even in the IRC3 you've got a balanced, pumping, crisp and clipping. Well, that's quite interesting, because what you could always do is, if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to swap these around, you could have the vintage limiter in front of the maximizer. You could probably do here, use the maximizer first, put it into clipping mode, and then have your vintage limiter almost as your final limiter. So in that case, you could probably reduce the ceiling down a bit, let's say to 0.5, and let's take a listen and see what's happening here if they're in tandem.
Slim whip of a kid, Daddy was an asshole that liked to drink. Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing.
So with the pumping, it's obviously going to take down. If you listen to the transient of the hi-hats, you can hear it very clearly pumping. Let's take a look at another one of these drop
Slim
downs.
whip of a kid, Daddy was an asshole that liked to drink. Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
quite like that. One of the things for me with this transient is it's making the snare snap a lot more. You're getting much more energy from the snare. I think the thing with it is it's one of those things you need to play with, because for me there is an element there of the hi-hats. I don't want to use the term ducking, but there's certainly something going on at the top there that needs to be looked at. So I think it's probably there for a case of playing with the threshold just to make sure you get a good balance across the piece. But I think that could be quite useful, having that going into your final limiter. Let's leave it there to start with, and then I may come back. We'll have a look to see if we need both. I'm not convinced that we do need both straight off, but let's leave them in there for the time being. Right, let's have a look next. What do I want to do next? So we've got a dynamic EQ, we've got dynamics, equalizer, exciter, imager, you've got a match EQ, vintage EQ, and a vintage tape. Let's have a look at the vintage tape first. Let's put it right at the beginning of the chain. So what have we got here? So we've got the okay, so we've got the speed, we've got the input drive, the bias, the harmonics, low emphasis, high emphasis. Okay. Obviously, this is if I start boosting the input drive, it's going to start affecting the level that goes into the limiter. So let's just take a listen and see what they do. See what's happening.
Billy was a young, slim whip of a kid. Daddy was a nice sort of like to drink. Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? Put down the gun. Put down the gun." Put down the gun.
I've certainly heard that crispiness from that bias on a load of records. I know that. Yeah, okay, so it's quite interesting. So obviously you can set the speed here. You then put the input drive to kind of get some more input going into the rest of the saturation, because then you're then looking at the bias. Is then kind of use it a low end bias, is it a high end bias, and then the harmonics, the low end emphasis and the high emphasis. Let's have a look. I'm going to have a look first at the harmonics, and let's play with the low emphasis. The thing for me, as I was moving the high emphasis, I think if you start putting a lot of saturation on the top end, it starts to sound very crispy very quickly, which is really kind of what we want. So let's have another little play through, and we'll see what we can do with the harmonics and the low emphasis.
He was a nice sort of like to drink. Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done?"
I think that's a great way at certainly fattening up low end. Obviously getting a lot of pump with the kick. Let's take a listen. I want to listen to the bass guitar, see what's happening here.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy
Okay, obviously you push it too far. For me, certainly, it's the bass is too overpowering. The I remember when I done the original master here, it was trying to get that bass guitar some room to breathe, and I think we'll look at that in a second. A couple of things with some EQ that we can do. I just want to see if we bring up the high end emphasis just a little bit. I just want to see if it kind of maybe brings out some of the pick attack of the bass.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
Okay, not really. It's kind of for me. It'd be very easy for that, certainly with distorted guitars, to kind of push it a little bit too far and start making things a little bit too saturated on the side. So I think we'll leave that as it is for the time being. Right this second, I think we're going to go back and we're going to have a look at a. I don't think we want a dynamic EQ. Let's go for a standard EQ. Let's move that here after the vintage tape, and we'll see if we can kind of bring out the bass guitar a little bit. Let's just go back, see if there's any questions at all. No questions coming through. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and let's see what we can do with the bass guitar. We've got, so obviously we've got a different view here. This is, oh, I like that. So that's obviously just a straightforward, you move it and do what, let's do, okay. So then you put it into this mode, and rather than, okay, you can do it here, and then widen the Q, boost, cut. I like that. And then you've got all these things down here. Okay, that's great. And then you've got all the selections. That I think could be really, really useful. And then you've also got solo to limited frequency range surrounding the selected band. So yeah, I really like that. That could be really useful. And then you've got an analog digital, and then you've got stereo mid side left and right. So you've really got a comprehensive EQ here. 8 bands as well. Okay. So let's have a look at this bass guitar then. So I'm thinking, right, so when it comes to the kick and the bass, obviously the kick's going to be the lows. And it's something that, there's actually a tip from Warren Hewitt, and when he was looking at mixing, and when he mixes the low end, he quite often with a bass guitar will roll off everything from a bass guitar sub 60 hertz 65 hertz to really kind of give the kick guitar the low end space that it needs. But then what he quite often does is then he's recommending kind of thinking about some supplementing EQ moves, maybe around the 150 mark, to kind of bring out the bass guitar in that region. And it's something that I quite like doing in a mastering context, because what it will do, it's not going so low that it's going to start emphasising the kick too much, but it is going to start allowing you to play with some of those bass frequencies of the bass guitar. So if we have a look around here, let's go for, say, at 152, let's play the track, we'll have a bit of a move around, and let's see if we can just emphasise the bass guitar a little bit. I'm not going to do anything too much, maybe, it might even just be a dB, and let's have a listen first.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
So I'm trying to think about this. So we've got the mid-side controls here. I like what it's doing here with the bass, but the thing is, if you've got it in standard stereo mode, you are going to affect everything, and you're going to bring up that bass frequencies across the whole stereo field. And to me, I think it's probably just a little bit too much. Even at say 0.8 dB, what I really want to do is then think about, okay, can we take away some of the little bit of muddiness from the guitars? So what I'm then going to do is have a look at the side. Now you've got 3 moves there, but it then goes back there. So if I then, okay, let's do this. So if I do side and then create another fill, no, hang on. Okay, let's bypass that. And if I go into side here, go to there. So mid, there's no 2. Side, there's a 2. So if I then have a listen.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, what have you done? Son, what have you done? What have you done? What have you done? Son, what? Put down the gun. Put down the gun. Put Billy couldn't live with a girl that he felt. Bottled up for years, but it never went. Mama never could look him in the eyes. All she could see was the killer inside.
Okay, it's kind of doing what I want it to do. I'm still thinking it's bringing out a bit too much of the kick. It's certainly enhancing the bass. And I'm just trying to get my head around this because it's this channel link. What's this say it does? So it kind of enables, disables linked control adjustments. And then you've got, okay, and then you've got obviously the solo, so the mid side, and that's left, right. Okay. Because this, I suppose, this is the thing, is kind of, you don't want to start, for me, if I want to start emphasising the bass, I don't also then want to start emphasising the guitars. If I can do it in mid mode and then take a little bit of the mud away from the sides, so you see here's a little EQ cut here, it's just kind of counteracting one another. So it's giving a little bit more clarity, a little bit more definition to the bass, and then we can just try and maybe look to see if we can control the low end. Now I think the thing here is, how many modules can you have? Oh, okay. So you can have quite a few more. Well, that's good. So now look at what I want to do. So we've got the tape going into the EQ. We've got the maximizer and the vintage limiter. What I want to do is look at the dynamics. Now this here, so you've got, it displays the crossover spectrum view. Oh, okay, so that's obviously the gain reduction view, and then you've got the detection filter view. So, okay, I want to keep this here because I want to try and see if we can. This looks as how many bands have we got? So if I set up, okay, interesting. Great. Okay, let's cancel that. I want to do. Let's bypass that. I just want to do a little bit of low end. Okay, let's play, and I just want to try and tame some of that kick.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son?"
Okay, so let's put it back into mid side. Let's go straight to mids. I really just want to focus. I don't want to bring up everything, but I'm just thinking here. Okay. Right, so this is starting to make a bit more sense now. So this is where it's split into two. So you can actually have, right, so this is going to be like a Swiss Army knife of dynamics. So you've got the whole lot. So this one here, so you've got left side here is your limiter. Well, I don't want to limit. What I want to do is is compress. So you've got your compressor here, and you can see the limiter is here, your compressor is here, and then you can basically, if you want it to limit, you can use this side. If you want to compress, use this side, and then you've got to use these bottom functions here for your compression, these here for your limiter. So you've got lots of different options straight in this one plugin. Now you've got view selected band controls, or you've got all controls. Okay, cool. So that's okay. So that's even better then. So if you wanted to have a look at all your controls in one, you then got all your individual thresholds for your bands. You can then set your individual bands up here. And the way I was doing this is it's just literally the plus sign here, and it just adds a band. And you just click this cross here to delete the band. I just deleted the wrong one there, but let's take that back down to around about 75 Hertz. This band here is in bypass. That one's enabled, and you've also got a solo function at the same time, which is great. You've got adaptive release, auto release. Okay, that was engaged there. Let's leave that on. You've then got band 1 gain. Okay, right. Here we are. We're rocking and rolling, and then down the bottom you've got peak. Okay, RMS. Right, so here we are. So let's have a listen now, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the compression, because we only want to apply some gentle compression. I invariably go for something like a 1.5, 1.6 to 1. I want something around a relatively fast attack, a relatively slow release. I'm going to leave the knee where it is, and then here we've got the band 1 gain, so we can then, if we start to apply too much volume, we can then reduce the band 1 gain to compensate.
Billy was a young, slim whip of a kid. Daddy was an asshole that liked to drink. Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
So it's I quite I tell you what, I love this particular module here because you can do so much with it. So just to recap here, so we've got compression in the mid mode only. It's in multiband mode, but it is only the low end up to 85 hertz. We're using compression. We're only getting around about say 0.6 dBs compression, ratio 1.5 to 1. A fast attack, slow release. I've left the knee as it is, and then all I've done is I've just taken down the gain a touch. So where it was adding just a little bit of volume, I've just taken that off. And what it's actually done is it's allowed it's really controlled that kick. If you listen to it before and after, so I'll play it again, we'll put it in bypass, there's quite a bit of flubbiness. And if you listen to it when I engage it, it kind of tightens all that kick in. It does allow the bass guitars kind of poke through a bit more, but it really kind of tightens up and defines the kick. So bypass it first, and then I'll engage it, and really listen out for the kick here.
Billy was a young, slim whip of a kid. Daddy was a nice sort of like to drink. Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
So it's really great at just controlling that low end, and I think that's yeah, I really like that. There's so many uses for it. And look here, you could even do parallel compression. So you've got 100% wet to dry. So if you really wanted to kind of get really funky with it and just absolutely bash the hell out of it, and then kind of back off the parallel, so it's about, you know, even if it's like 10, you know, 10%, 15% wet, you can do that with the parallel mode, which I really like. So yeah, I like my initial thoughts are this is really handy. It's much more flexible than I first thought, and I love the way that you can really kind of work with the different modules. So my initial thoughts are, yeah, this is really good platform to kind of work with. Let's just take a quick look, see if there's any questions at all. Using limiter and maximizer for it, never seen that yet. Yeah, the maximizer is slightly different. So what we've got here is the maximizer is we were looking at the clipping. So it's one of the common techniques to take less stress or to de-stress a limiter. There's different varying ways you can look at it. You can apply two limiters in chain, or you can maybe apply a clipper before the main limiter. And with the maximizer, we were looking at the different parts here, and you've actually got the IRC4 presets here, and you've also got the free ones here, and you've got the clipping mode there. It's just what we actually did is actually played with it, and I actually really like what it was doing with the transient, and it was actually kind of just making things pop a little bit more. So it's quite a common technique. If you want to have good control overall with less emphasis on a single limiter, because if you really start to push a single limiter, it can squash things very quickly. So stack limiters is something I've covered on the channel before. Have a clipper before the limiter. Lots of different kind of things you can do there just to take the stress off and get a more even, natural tone, really. So I like the way I do like the way we're going with. What I just want to do is have a quick before and after.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, what have you done? Son, what have you done?
Okay, so I like where it's going. Okay, let's have a quick look through here. So we've got an exciter, an imager, a match EQ. Let's have a look at this exciter. and I want to put this here. Okay, so we've got oversampling here. Let's engage that. So once again, so we've got the, so this is the crossover spectrum view. So I imagine this is, once again, you can do bands. Okay, that's quite interesting. You can do, once again, stereo mid-side. That's your solo, that's your engage. Then you've got the triode. Okay, so these are just going to be, right, so then it says one single stereo band here, and if I go through and add another band, it's going to, okay, that's fine. So let's think about this. I don't normally use too much in the way of exciting, but let's just have a quick look at listen to the vocal.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
Okay, I mean, for me, I just wouldn't use that in a single band. Right, let's try and think. If I want to, okay, let's try and go there to.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears.
I'm not sure. I'm just at the moment. I'm just fiddling with knobs. I mean, it's great to have this. In fact, let's try this again. Let's put it here, back in mid mode.
What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? Put down the gun. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, what have you done, son?
So I think it's one of those things you've got to really play around with. Saturation is, I mean, it says it's an exciter. It's very kind of, it's very obviously oversaturating the source. I think it could be great depending on what you want to use it on. So this particular example here, I really wanted to kind of bring out some of the vocal. If you do it in standard stereo mode, for me it's just overpowering. It just takes it really starts to make the guitars just too crispy, too distorted. Put it in mid-side mode, it's much better. But once again, you wouldn't want to do too much. I would quite like to have a bit more of a mess around with the amount in the mix, but then once again, you kind of back it off. There's lots of different ways of looking at it. I like the tube. I think the triode and dual triode was just too much. But I think just having a little bit in the mids and really focus it where the vocal's going to sit. So somewhere here, what's that? 976 to 2K. It's certainly adding a little bit more brightness and excitement to the vocals. So let's take one more listen. Listen purely for the vocal, and I'll do a quick before and after.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, what have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son?
To me, it certainly brings it gives that more. I suppose it kind of adds a little bit more air to the vocal without actually just boosting the top end of an EQ, and it just kind of opens it up a little bit. But I wouldn't use a lot. I think just really kind of narrow the band you'd working on. I certainly wouldn't do it across the whole song. It's not my sound that I would certainly be going for. But I think just using it sparingly in mid mode and just focus it around where the vocal, or the area in the vocals that you want to focus on, it can be really good. And as I say, it's just taking away some of that kind of more nasally low end. So yeah, it certainly has got its uses, and then obviously you can link the bands. Always, as soon as I have a chance to oversample, I will do it. Okay, I don't know how much more I'm going to do with this, because we've got the vintage tape going into the EQ, we've got some dynamics which is just going to be controlling the low end, we've got exciter purely just not controlling but adding something to the vocal, and then we've got obviously the maximizer and the limiter kind of giving some obviously some overall control and giving it a little bit more body. What else we got? I don't really want to apply a dynamic EQ. Imager. I mean, we could have a look. Let's have a look. I probably won't use it because I don't really like these types of plugins. But let's have a look, and let's just see what it does.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, what have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What
Okay, just think about some practical applications here. This would actually be quite good. It's multi-band once again, so that is going to be really quite useful. So if we was to say we wanted to mono everything, say 150 and below, you could literally do that with band 1, and you could then basically take that all the way down and mono everything below a certain level.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son?"
Okay, now let's just say we want to take some of the real top tops. Let's say 15 and above, and let's have a look. I don't want to do. Okay, let's have a look here. So that's going to be band number 4. Is that right? Okay, it's got to be this one. That's greyed out, so it has to be that one. So let's have a look, just see if we can push some of the top end, and just see if we can subtly add a little bit more width.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? Put down the gun. Put down the gun. Put down the gun.
Right, let's take these off a minute. Let's go back to the monitors.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointing it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? Put down the gun. Put down the gun. Put down the gun.
I'm not overly keen, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm going to take it out. It certainly will have its applications, but I just don't really think it's. I think it's one of those things for me. It's kind of just. It's very difficult to get the tone that I will be looking for. I'm not really looking for anything too much. Clearly, when I take the headphones off and listen to the monitors, it's much more. It's much less subtle. It's more in your face. And I just think the top end. I mean, yeah, if you wanted to use it as something along the lines of like monoing the bass, I think that'd be quite handy. But I don't like pushing the width unnaturally by using any stereo width plugins. Personally, it's not really something that I'm a massive fan on, so I don't really think it was adding too much. So I think we're pretty much there with what I mean, the image, no, match EQ, no, vintage comp, no, vintage EQ, no. I don't want to do any more EQ. And I think the dynamic EQ is going to start to overcompress things anyway. So I think we'll leave it there. Let's try and bypass. In fact, let's just bypass the plugin. There is going to be a little bit of a volume difference, but let's have a quick listen of a before and after.
Mama spilled the beer and Daddy got mad. Billy tried to fight him with all that he had. Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done?"
So there we have it. I mean, we've not really done too much. Kind of had a little bit of tape saturation going in there. Once again, not a lot, just a little bit of drive, a little bit of harmonics, and a little bit of low end emphasis. I'm not really doing anything not doing anything at all to the high end, because it starts to, certainly with the distortion of the guitars and with the hats, it kind of just goes to just too much. EQ. We've got a little bit of mid-sides, which is a little bump here, 135 hertz, and then we've got a little cut at 324 hertz. The mid is to give the bass guitar some emphasis. The side is to take out some of that mud away from the guitars. So that is there. Dynamics. We're doing nothing except for low-end control. So we've got the literally the low end of the multiband at 85 is in compressor mode rather than limiter, and we've got a 1.5 to 1 ratio, relatively quick attack, relatively slow release, and it's just getting a little bit, not even quite a dB's worth of gain reduction, and we've got a little bit of it was kind of boosting a little bit, and we kind of just taken back what the additional volume was. Exciter really focused in once again in mid mode, and it's really focusing on that vocal, just to kind of give it a little bit more openness and more, I suppose, air. I don't know if air is the right word, because air frequencies are probably more up here, but it is just really opening up that vocal, and just giving it a little bit more character, let's say. And then we got the maximizer, ceiling at minus 0.5, threshold at 1.5, and we're not doing too much here. There's no transient emphasis, there's no stereo independence. The character's at 2, which is just going to control the attack and release, and we've put it in the transient mode just to give it some overall oomph, really. And then going into the final limiter, no thresholds. We're doing no compressing except for what's happening once the peaks hit the ceiling. We've got a ceiling at -1, and once again a character around about 2. It's in tube mode. We had a bit of a look around at the other modes. I think it's one of those things you really need to kind of sit and play with a little bit more. So let's have one last listen as a before and after.
Billy got the gun from under the stairs, pointed it at Daddy, pulled the trigger for tears. And Mama said, "What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done, son? What have you done? What have you done?"
So there we have it. I've really enjoyed that. To be fair, I think yeah, I had a few, let's say, preconceived ideas over it, and I'm really, quite happy to admit when I've got something wrong. And I think I have got this wrong. This is the standard version. I really enjoy it. I really did enjoy it. I think this could be useful for quite a lot of people. Certainly, if you don't want to go out and buy lots of different bundles of plugins, you have an all-in-one solution. I mean, what have we got here? We've got 6 different modules. You can have more. If you want more, you can have more. So you can certainly do that. You've got lots of options here. I like the fact that it's really, that the individual plugins are really, really well thought out. And anything that you do, I mean, this one here, okay, so the vintage tape is very much, I think this is very much like a stereo plugin anyway. But the EQs, your dynamics, all of these have got your mid-side modes on, which I think is fantastic. The EQs, I love the fact you've got the different views. So if you want like a more standard, just add the band in, and you can kind of, if I click here, I can use these controls here to affect the cue, and I can just literally lift up and down or left and right to add the volume, take the volume, or move the frequency, and you've got the cue here at the tip of a button. But I love this view. I think this is really, really handy, and obviously you can go in here and then change the type of EQ setting that you're applying, so I think that is really good. And obviously having any kind of mid-side processing, we didn't really look at the different types. You've got analog and digital, left it in analog mode, but I like the fact that this goes through all of the different individual modules. So you've got, once again, you've got the dynamics. You can have this as a standard broadband compressor if you wish, not an issue, but I liked it in this, so we just wanted to control the low end, put it in literally 2 bands, bypassed the top band, just focused it on the low end. Mid-side, once again, we've got all of that. You can have a limiter or a compressor, or both, depending on what you want to do. And I like the fact that you can either do your auto gain. You've got this, it's got your all bands, so you can really kind of go through. If you wanted to set it more up like a traditional multi-band compressor, you can do that in that mode. It really is really well thought out. And once again, it's like the exciter. You can do that. You can set it up in multi-band functionality. All of them have got solo buttons, which I think is great. Mid-side, once again, even in the exciter. And then the way that you can go through the maximizer, I mean, the maximizer, I started with the vintage limiter and kind of just had a bit of a mess around with it and thought we'd leave it there. But I really like once again, the flexibility of the maximizer, because there's so much you can do, and there's so many different types. So with the IRC4, you've got the classic, modern, or the transient. If you want to go here, you can have like a pumping, balanced, crisp, or clipping. It really is quite, it's quite a thorough plugin set. Really is for one price and all in under one roof. One thing I didn't look at was CPU consumption. Because this is such a brand new computer, it only turned up today, I need to set everything up in the DAW. If you want to do things like learn threshold, you can do it. I don't, because I really want. I just focus on the loudness that I want to get to. I'm not going to master everything to -14 LUFS. I just want to master it to what sounds good. But you've got so much here available to you. Is this on the maximizer as well? It is. It's on everything. So this here, it could be a godsend. So you've got gain match. And the reason why that could be so useful is you don't want to get to a situation where you are being deceived by volume differences. You want to hear the raw processing of the plugins and not any volume difference, because we all know that added volume sounds better. Apparently it sounds better, so we just perceive it to be better because it's louder. So if you've got a gain match function on here, that could be fantastic. That really could be really handy. So for example, I've been a big champion of the ABLM plugin by TB Pro Audio. Very similar thing, and if you've got something here built in, then great. I think that could be really, really worth its weight in gold. So yeah, overall I am really, really impressed. Let's quickly go back to here. Let's go to, okay, Says no more questions come through. So yeah, I was really surprised, really surprised. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I think it's a really good plugin. I would. It's certainly one that I'm going to play with more. It's certainly one that I would use much more often, because it's just so versatile, and I can think of so many different uses for it. The exciter, once again, it's something I'd need to play around with. I'd need to think of some more use cases where I'd really get the most of it. But the dynamics is great. The EQ is fantastic, and to have all those different limiting options there as well is really good. Saturation. Once again, you get so many different options with the like the different tube emulations and the tape emulations and things like that. Would I think that, now thinking back on it, would I use this as an all-in-one solution and not go to any other plugins? Probably not. I mean, there would be, if these were the best things for that. So if all the modules were the best for the job, then I'd quite happily just use Ozone 9 for a whole mastering project. That's not, I wouldn't have an issue with that. But there's still bits from other plugins. I like a lot of the, once again, the IK plugins. The stealth limiter for me is just fantastic. I love the transparency of that limiter, so I really like that. Maybe using some more of the multi-band processing from Ozone going into the stealth, I think would be really good. The saturation element, I'm not sure I'd use that. Possibly. There are some other tape emulations I've got that I like the sound of as well. I'm not saying it's a bad sound, but I just think having a bit of a mix and match approach, I think, would be quite good. That EQ is fantastic. You've got so many bands with that EQ, and you can do so much with it. It'll be interesting to see. Once again, I'd really want to go into it a little bit more in depth, and I would imagine you could stack instances of the same. Could you? I don't know. Let's have a quick look. If I go back to it here, come out here, and I just want to see, can you stack, say for instance, so if I've got equalizer 1 there. Oh, okay, right. So you obviously, so the equalizer 1 and the equalizer 2 is just, it's the same equalizer, just a separate instance of it. So you've got okay. So yeah, so that's quite handy then. So if you want to do some different EQs, so if you wanted to have one that really focuses on, say, shelving, you could have one as a shelving EQ and have one more as a what's the word I'm looking for? More of a surgical EQ type thing. You could do that. The dynamics you couldn't really do. It doesn't look like you can add more than one band of dynamics, but then I wouldn't generally do that anyway. I say that. Sometimes I do have more like a broadband bus compressor, and then maybe have a multi-band compressor afterwards. Could I do that? I suppose I could use the vintage comp. Let's have a quick look here. Balanced, sharp, smooth, ratio, attack, release. You've got gain, auto gain, threshold. Adjusts frequency and gain for this filter. Okay, so that'd be the vintage comp. So that to me looks more like, okay, I'd need to have a look into that a bit more as to what it's, because it looks almost to me more like a dynamic EQ type thing, which if that is the case, then maybe you could maybe use the normal dynamics plugin as more like a broadband compressor, and maybe you have the vintage comp after it controls certain elements, possibly instead of a multi-band compressor. It's an option, but I think in that scenario I'll probably use this more as a multi-band and have like a bus compressor going in beforehand, I think, from my own experience. But I've been thoroughly impressed with this, really enjoyed it, and I think it is a good option. And if you can get it, the way I got this was through buying RX8, and because I bought RX8 standard, I ended up getting a discount on the Ozone 9. So certainly for the price I paid for it, I think it's very, very worthwhile and a very, very flexible tool. So if you're interested, there are links in the chat. Go and have a look and see if it's something for you. As I say, I probably wouldn't use it as an all-in-one solution, but I would certainly use lots of different elements of it in different scenarios. So it's not something I'm not going to use again. It's certainly something that I'll continue to use moving forward. So yeah, I hope you found that useful. Yeah, not really much more to say than that. I think it is. I think it really is good, and if you can get it at a good discount, Plugin Boutique have quite often got them on offer as well. So certainly have a look over there as well if you can't get it direct, or if it's a little bit more expensive direct, and have a look at Plugin Boutique and see if you can get a bit more of a discount on it. So that is that's the end of the Ozone 9 initial thoughts. Really, I don't really think I need to go into much more than that. Lots of different applications you can do it. You can tell from some of the sounds, certainly with some of the saturation and the exciter and things like that. It's you listen to a lot of modern records, you can certainly hear that there's a lot of similar sounds through the modern releases, certainly when it comes to saturating vocals or exciting vocals. So I certainly get the impression it's quite often used or quite well used in the industry. But yeah, it is a good option. I think what we'll do now is we'll open it up. It's 10:15. We'll maybe give it another 5 minutes. There's no questions coming through at the moment. If anyone's got any questions at all, leave me a question in the chat. More than happy to take a few questions if you've got any. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up shortly. Just while we wait 5 minutes, I just want to give a couple of shout outs. I normally try and do a few shout outs when I'm on the live streams. And who am I going to give a shout out to on this live stream? There's been so many people who have been supporting over the last few weeks. I will give a shout out to, in fact, I'm going to quickly go online and I'm going to send a resource, put a resource in the chat for a Facebook group, because there has been a fantastic Facebook group which is really, really helpful. Cookies. And I'll put a link in the chat. This is really worth having a look at, and I don't think I can. No, it's not going to let me do it until I put the two-factor authentication in. Right, okay. What I'm going to do then, I'll put a link in the comment for a Facebook group. It is a really, really good Facebook group, and I know a lot of the guys. It's all levels. So you get you've got pro level participants, you've got intermediates, and you've obviously got newcomers to the music industry. It's a really, really good resource. Charlie is one of my buddies. Him and a few of the others that run the group. It is a really, really good, useful resource. They've just started up the group on their own. They used to be part of another group, and True Peak Mixing and Mastering, I think it's called. If I remember rightly, I'm gonna have to get the name. Once I get access to Facebook, I'll put the link in the comments down below. Have a look and join, because it is a fantastic resource. It's not one of these resources that's restricted to a certain DAW. It's more wider guidance around mixing, mastering, recording, and you've got some really good experienced people in there. There's mixing engineers, mastering engineers, recording engineers, all sorts, including singer-songwriters. And there are, once again, it's a very quickly growing community. They do lots of things like, I'll give you a few examples where they've done recently, more viewpoints on certain scenarios. There's been so many this week. So they've done some recently on the top 5 best free plugins, for example. What are your 5 go-to free plugins, or your number 1 go-to free plugin? Things like that. They go into lots of things about how you applying reverb across the whole track or certain elements of the tracks. It's just they're really trying to do lots of different things, change it up a bit rather than just being a standard question and answer group. it's also giving a lot more focused examples for lots of people to learn from. So I'm sure it's True Peak Mixing and Mastering. I'll leave links in the comments down below. Check it out if you want to know more about some more general wider guidance. Then it's a great resource to be part of. So Charlie Roy is my good buddy there, and I'll leave links in the comments down below. Okay, still no questions coming through, so what we'll do is we'll call it a day there. I hope you found this useful. I try and leave these a little bit more unscripted, so it is going to be very much initial thoughts, very much first impressions, because I didn't want to come into this being prepared and giving you guys a load of well, I know this does this, I know this does that, because it's, for me, it's more, you don't really learn quite as much about the plugin. For me, going through, pressing a few buttons and saying, oh, okay, this does this, this does that, you can do this with it, you can do that with it, I think that's more beneficial for you guys, rather than saying, well, for this particular example, I know that I need to do multiband in this particular area, I'm only going to focus on that area, I'm not going to show you the rest of the plugin. I think it's not as beneficial for everyone. It's been a good insight for me, trying to understand how the plugin is laid out, how flexible it can be. So I hope you found it useful. And if you like these types of initial thoughts, first impressions, let me know. I've got quite a few other things to do. There's plugins that I want to focus on, such as the IK Multimedia Arc. So that is think of that as a corrective EQ. So it's something where you will have to measure your room, so you have to get a measurement microphone, and you have to do measurements in your room, and then what it does is it takes all that information and it will apply an EQ curve to help your overall process. It's something I want to cover, and yeah, lots more. I've got so many plugins that I've got to review at some point, so stay tuned for all of those. And yeah, well, I'll be back very, very soon. There's so much in the pipeline. I've been a little bit lapsed lately because I've been so busy trying to get everything structured. I've got so many things lined up that I want to show you guys, and there's so many things I want to bring to the community. It's just taking a little bit of time to structure it, and really start to put more. I don't want to say more value, but really kind of give you guys more value from the videos. I love doing them, but it's yeah, I've been doing it for a year now. I want to really up the game. I've spent a lot of time and money on gear to kind of to really be able to bring this to life for you guys, and it's just really taking it to that next level. So once again, I hope you found this all useful. If you do want to support the channel, there'll be links in the chat through things like buy me a coffee. Let's just have a quick look at the IK, just to see if there's any movement on the IK group buy. Because we're so close to the 20k mark. Just see if there's anything here. $19,922. So we just need another 78 participants in one day to hit the 20,000 mark and have it extended by another month. So if you are interested, check out the links in the chat. It is an affiliate link, but once again, it's no additional cost to you. I will receive a small commission. It just goes to help support the channel. So yeah, it's so close now to hitting that next level, and hopefully we can then get it all the way up to getting the full 24 free plugins. So if you're interested, then check it out. I love you and leave you there. Thank you for joining me for the last couple of hours, and yeah, all that's left for me to say is I hope you keep safe and well, and I'll see you all in the next video coming real soon. Many thanks, folks.